Compañeros, welcome to the SQL Data Partners Podcast. I am Carlos El Chacon, your host. I have with me in the see-through shirt, the transparent, what did you call it? The invisible shirt? No.
I did call it the see-through shirt. It does prove I don't have a heart. So my wife is, in fact, correct.
Oh, man. No, say it's not so. So, Mr. Kevin Fiesel,
Don't tell her.
Welcome today. Okay, so I'm not sure how long we'll go today, but I promised Amanda that we would stream for X number of minutes so that we can get a certain qualification that we're looking for. And so she'll be very unhappy if I'm less than that. So.
Oh, you're trying to get Twitch affiliation?
Trying to get Twitch affiliation, yes. So, okay, very good. For today's episode, yesterday we had our SQL Trail event. And what I thought we would do today is do a little retrospective. But, as always, compañeros, before we get there, and we are coming at a new time, right? So streaming, Wednesday was just too crazy. And I'm like, we got to punt. So we are streaming today, Friday afternoon instead. So I apologize for the, moving the time. Before we get into that, we do have a couple of shout outs we want to give. Shout out to our speakers, our SQL Trail speakers, Mr. Kevin Fiesel, Eugene Meininger, Gonzalo Bicio, Mariano Covo, and Frank Lavigne. Without them, we couldn't have done it. And I see, so Kevin's sporting the gear. I have another SQL Trail shirt to get to you, so you'll have another one to add to the repertoire.
We'll see if it's also green screen green.
Yeah. No, this one should be good. There are no green screen green in it. So now that there's no, there are no events to go to, the wardrobe is thinning a little bit, right? We don't have these free T-shirts to have anymore. Okay, so Mr. Kevin, hot take. What did you think of our SQL Trail event?
Do you want a hot take or do you want a reasoned response?
Ooh, okay, yeah. Hey, you know what? We're flexible here, right? Whatever you've got, if you have a reasonable response, that's always good.
All right, I think I'll go with the reasonable response. It's Friday afternoon, and I'm not ready yet for the hot takes.
Okay.
Friday night, I'll probably be ready for some hot takes. That's why I get off of Twitter. That's why I don't use Twitter at night.
Yeah.
So, SQL Trail March edition 2021. I had to look down to see what year it is. I still think it's March of 2020.
Yes, that's right. We have lost a year. That's fair.
So, went on yesterday. It was interesting. The Airmeet application was one I hadn't used before. It's what shtick is that you have this concept of sitting at tables and trying to emulate a more in-person experience of I'm at a table with other people, and therefore you see the video screens of those people as opposed to everybody or nobody.
Right.
So that gives a little bit of time between sessions in order to sit down and chat with folks.
A separation, if you will.
Yes, exactly. I had a few things that had to happen while SQL Trail was going on that I couldn't get around. Basically, it was a day booked with meetings all around SQL Trail. Still able to present my session, thankfully. I didn't have any meetings pop up during that time that I couldn't slough off until a later point. But I was able to get there, do my presentation, go wildly over on time, which honestly I expected. By the time I got done with the material, I'm like, I have a 2-hour session.
Yes, there's a lot of detail there.
That happens. That happens sometimes.
Yeah. Better to be over prepared, right?
Probably so. Yeah. Yeah. If you can't wow them, at least bombard them.
Yeah. Just keep giving it to them until they can't take any more, right?
Yep. Yep. It's the Navy ground shelling variety of speaking. So, yeah, that happened. Then I had to drop out afterwards. Didn't get to see any of the other sessions, but came back in for the happy hour and had an opportunity to sit down at a couple tables, talk to some folks, and call it a day because I had to go do some additional meetings after that.
Yeah, you were a busy guy yesterday.
It was a busy day.
Yeah. And then I guess can we make that announcement since it's a resume addition.
Yeah. So later on that evening, also spoke for MadPass, the Madison SQL Server Users Group, which is probably going to rename themselves now that Pass is no longer a thing.
Sure.
So we'll see what they come up with. But that was their first post-Pass meeting, where I talked about the apply operator. So it was a fun talk. A lot of people hadn't used it before, but I think I converted some people.
There you go. Yeah. You have to go back in the Wayback Machine. Now let's see. It wasn't quite the first 10, but I think that was like, if I remember correctly, it was like episode 11.
13.
13. Hey, look, man. Things you're able to pull out. I guess, just... It's always impressive. Yeah, so my take on SQL Trail, one, to have it be done, right? To execute the event, right? You have people come, have presenters there available, present good content, and try to deliver on what you've promised. So the fact that we executed, I feel like was a good thing, right? I did
get the sack of money, so that's good.
Yeah. I don't know about a sack of money, right? But I think that the idea. I'm glad we pivoted. We were going to do Zoom again. We had tried a Zoom conference before, using the breakout rooms for smaller sessions. I liked the idea of Airmeet. Again, because you weren't always on camera, right? Which I think is, you don't have to decide, well, do I show my camera or do I turn it off or, turn it back on? You don't have to deal, you don't have to deal with that. And, when you were in session, now the one thing that I thought would still be nice as a presenter is that ability to see people. So we did take that away from the presenters. At least in this case, everybody was seasoned enough and has been talking into the ether, right, of podcasts or recorded video or whatever, that it didn't phase them there. But I did miss that that aspect of it. But again, right, not too much you can do to get around that.
Honestly, I think it's kind of easier to do a virtual presentation without seeing people, because you get caught up like, that guy doesn't look that happy. Am I doing it wrong? And it turns out, no, he's loving it. He just, he's not going to sit there smiling and.
Sure. No, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
And in person, you can still catch that. Like, oh, there's the one person in the room who looks pretty upset. I wonder if I'm really losing that person. Yeah. When it turns out that, no, they're actually loving it, and that's just how they normally look.
That's right. Yeah.
But when nobody's got cameras on like that, you can just keep going. You just don't have to worry about who's on the other side and what they're doing. It can be less effective than actually presenting in person. So that's something you'll hear a lot, and I do tend to agree with it. I think it is easier to present in person once you get past the there's a bunch of people here and I'm so scared to talk because there are people.
Right.
Once you start treating people as meat widgets, it gets easy.
Meat widgets.
Spoken like a true manager.
Yeah. One of the things I thought that got better is there is still the chat feature we try to utilize. I don't know that we were quite revved up to begin with, as you were the first session. But in later sessions that did start to pick up, and there was some interaction there. And as I say that out loud, that's probably an expectation setting that would be helpful, is letting people know that they can chat, that they can chime in, right? I think there are a couple people that just will naturally, right, get in there and do that. But I think for the most part, people are still fairly reserved about that piece.
Oh yeah.
And so helping set the expectation, the culture. We had a welcome session, and at one point we had talked about the idea of actually trying to get everybody to put something in chat, right? Just to hey, here's a question, right? Where's everybody from? Okay, enter that in or whatever. That didn't make it, but it makes me think that could have been something that we should have added, just to get people in the hey, I can do this, right? It's okay. It's not so scary.
Yeah, it is interesting where I think there's a major disconnect. If you've used, since we're on Twitch here, if you've used Twitch for its original intended purpose, which is watching people play video games, you tend to get a lot of chat activity. You tend to get a lot of back and forth discussion, interaction.
Sure.
When you use technical Twitch, as I'll call it, we stream SQL Server user groups. You've got SQL Trail SQL Data Partners podcasts. SQL Trail wasn't on Twitch this year, I don't think.
It was, as a matter of fact.
Well, it was. Oh my, we were simulcast.
Yes.
So I was correct all along. Anyhow, for episodes of SQL Data Partners, there's some chat. There's usually some interaction, but it's much more limited than what you would expect for a regular Twitch broadcast.
Sure.
You'll see other broadcasts where there's a lot of chat interactivity, and getting that in the technical field seems a lot harder. And I think my hot take on this is that it's a mental block between work and pleasure, where this is work. I am watching people talk about things that are generally related to work, and therefore I'm going to treat it like a webinar where the only thing that you're supposed to do is ask questions, and you want to ask the best question possible, or at least a question that takes 2.5 minutes, because you want to be able to filibuster and talk for a while, and you want people to know just how smart you are and that you're the smartest person in the room. And I don't really have a question. I just wanted to let people know that I'm the smartest person in here.
Yes, that I could give this presentation if I really wanted to, but I'm allowing you to give it, but it really should be me.
Yes, and now how do I open the Azure portal again?
Yeah, that's right.
So it feels like there's this disconnect where I'm doing this work-related thing, and therefore I'm not going to be interactive as much as if it was watching something else, even if it was the same level of content, the same level of material. Because it's in a different context, I might be a lot more chatty.
Sure. Yeah, so that's interesting, right? To kind of help set that. Now, we did try to open it up early, let a lot of people join. Some people hopped right onto the tables, right? They picked it up, they were fine. Others were kind of like, yeah, what is this? I'm not sure about this. Seems strange, but. So one of the things that I thought we would do is I still like the half day session. I mean, it seems like that's the right sweet spot. But we still did 4 sessions. Well, 4.5 if you count the intro, 4.25, whatever. But I was thinking, we were thinking now is again still that the 4-hour block is a good time. But actually knocking it down to 3 sessions, leaving a little more time in between so people can have that hallway chat there. I still like the idea of having a single track approach. I know there was Mala reached out to us and said, hey, multi-track. Can we do multi-track? And they do have that feature. But I think, for this, I still like single track, kind of keeping, because the chat stays all together, right? Et cetera, and it does give you the ability to reference. Again, much easier in a full day event or multi-day event, right? To kind of make that single track, make it apply, just give more opportunities for engagement. But I still think it's helpful. One of the interesting things that this year is, because we were using Airmeet, and we do our registration through a platform called Ticket Tailor. We got about a half dozen registrations during the event, which I don't think has ever happened before. Of course, we were doing Zoom last year, so that was interesting. And I don't know that I have all the right metrics to get in place, or I haven't looked through the data to figure out if I can tell where those folks are coming from. But that was interesting. I know Amanda was helping us with social media and whatnot, but I'm not sure where those people were actually coming from.
Yeah, I guess the positive side of that virtual event thing is you don't have to be registered several days in advance. It's going on right now. Come on in.
Right.
The
come on in.
marginal
Sure.
cost of another person is 0.
Right. So yeah. Now it's always interesting. So I don't know why. Okay. Well, with SQL Saturdays or these other events, right? Multi-track, session selection is always can be tricky, but I don't know that too many folks are actually trying to solicit feedback in terms of, hey, what should we talk about? I know there's a group buy conference and they vote on things. I'm not sure how Eugene's not here to talk about how they continue to do that, how much feedback or they're getting there. But I know in trying to talk with our audience yesterday, hey, well, what should we talk about? What are some of the things that you're interested in hearing about? They don't have a lot of great suggestions. It's kind of like, whatever. And so I feel like content, or you're not curating the content, but selecting the content is still a tricky proposition, right? And
Sure.
I'm not sure that I've quite gotten the crystal ball there to understand what it is that people want to see or hear.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. If you asked me right now, hey, you put together 5 sessions, what do you want to see? I'd probably stammer for a little bit, try to buy some time, and find a way to weasel my way out of this conversation as briefly as possible.
Sure.
Probably by using words like, well, I have to think about it. I have to, think about how to get these sessions planned out the right way, because I want to have the best conference possible. When really you're putting me on the spot to think of ideas. Ooh. Yeah. And the smoother approach, the one that Group Buy, for example, uses, is, okay, speakers submit your sessions, and maybe there are general topics. Data Toboggan, for example, is specialized on Azure Synapse Analytics. So put your sessions in around that product. Or you may have something else which is specialized on these particular sub-genres of the data platform space. And then bring those up for a vote. Now you have 50 sessions, choose 6, or at least choose 1.
Sure.
And it's easier for a person because instead of thinking hypotheticals, you have these laid out in front of you.
Right.
Where when you are thinking hypotheticals, a lot of the time you're thinking about, well, what's going to be good for me? Right now, I'm dealing with this issue on peer-to-peer replication in SQL Server 2008. So I think there should be a section on that. I would pluck out my own eyeballs before. Actually, you know what? Let's not go that far. I don't think I would actually do that. I would threaten to pluck out my eyeballs before creating a session on peer-to-peer replication in SQL Server 2008.
Right. Yeah, not a whole lot of fun. Now, one piece of feedback that we did get, well, I guess before I go there, but we were talking about it, and it's almost like what do you want to have for lunch? I don't know. Right?
Yep.
What's on the menu? Right? Like,
Right.
oh, well, now that I have a menu, I can choose. But, yeah, having it be a little too open-ended, it can be challenging. But one suggestion we did get, at least that was a little more focused, was to have a professional development session. I think that would lend itself to, particularly at the end, right? People kind of get in there. The chat's been going, so that's something that we might experiment with next time, right?
There are some good ones.
Yeah, that's right. Always, and I think sometimes, right? So you and me, right, may be a little ahead of the curve in some of those pieces, just because we have made the plunge and trying to get out there, right? Make connections. I mean, again, we've talked in the past about how critical, important the SQL pass or the SQL community has been, right, in helping us make those connections. But there are still a lot of other folks, right, that haven't quite made that leap. And so again,
yep. All I know is if I do a professional development session, I'm going to try to title it "Pants Are Optional" and have some witty subtitle that I haven't thought up yet.
There we go, man. That particularly given the current climate, right? That could be very. I think that people would be like, yes, I agree with that.
I mean, I wear pants maybe 6 days a year. I don't consider shorts to be pants.
Oh, so we do. So one thing that we did do, and I meant to put it out on Twitter, it ended up on Instagram. But did you see our victory burrito?
Not.
Ooh, I tagged you, Kevin. Man. So anyway, next time you go to Instagram, there'll be a nice big victory burrito for you.
Nice. I've pretty much stopped using Instagram because I hate Facebook with a passion. Wow.
Well, there you go. Yeah, so I guess I have uninstalled Twitter from my phone, and so
I've done the same.
Yeah,
it's
I didn't have a way to get it up there easy.
Yeah, actually, that was a book that I had listened to. I wanted to say read, but I technically didn't read it. But book that I had listened to, basically one of the things that the guy pointed out was social networking, social media is a complete drain on time. And you can find yourself spending dozens of hours per week just lost in it and come out of it and say, I didn't do anything that I needed to do.
Right. Did I have a good experience based on that? That time allocation.
Plus, and these things are designed in such a way that they drag in the worst of people. Like Twitter is designed for misunderstandings and for bombastic statements that just cause everyone to get angry. That's what Twitter is designed for.
Interesting.
They will say otherwise, but this is how it was designed. And instead, all right, social media, slot out 15 minutes a day on your calendar. Go to your computer and connect to it. Don't have it on your phone, because if you have it on your phone, you're just standing around and, I've got a couple of minutes here, let me just open up Twitter, and half an hour later you realize that you just wasted a lot of time.
Yes. And that, you're like, do I have to unfollow these people, right?
Yeah.
And that's no fun.
So block out time. That's my secret to success. Calendars.
There you go. So now that would actually be a good professional development topic.
Yeah, actually I have 2 long blog posts on it. Tracy Baggiano, she looked at my blog post. She's like, "You've stole my idea," because she had this thing for years as well. And if you look at her calendar, it's about as booked as mine. Where I'm looking at it right now. I've got basically 15 hours a day blocked out in terms of here are the things that I plan to do.
Well,
And it also helps with commitment, where you look at a to-do list, you say, oh, I've got 25 things on the to-do list. I can knock those out easy. And you realize that each one of those things takes 3 hours to do. And the numbers don't add up anymore. So you look at it in the morning, you get optimistic. Yeah, I'm going to knock out these things. It'll be easy. And you do 3 of them and you get depressed because I'm not making any progress. The calendar entry system, at least combined with a to-do list, really helps you figure out, well, how much can I reasonably get done? And then you commit to that level.
So what's the percentage of calendaring that you then, I don't want to say ignore, but you're like, yeah, I'm not doing that now?
It's about 10%.
Wow. Okay.
I'm usually pretty good about it because I do it the night before.
Got you.
So I don't tend to do it 5 days in advance or anything. There are days when, I'll just blow something off or I'll shuffle it around ad hoc. But a lot of the time I'm able to commit. And some of that is just, also it's work ethic. Just because you put it in a calendar doesn't mean now that was the hard part. Now it's the easy part.
Right.
You actually do have to force yourself. All right, got to do this. Because usually it's not like watch TV 6 hours, play video games 4 hours, take a nap. That's usually not what the calendar looks like.
Yeah. But you put that stuff on your calendar? And not.
Oh yeah, I will schedule nap time.
Okay, there you go.
I realize that I need my naps. Which would be really awkward if I ever go back into the office.
Yeah. Just make sure you take a cot, right?
Yeah.
Brienne was joking. She came for SQL Trail, and anyway, we were meeting customers as well. But she was. I had my cot and my pillow, my sleeping bag there, and she's like, "Oh, is this where you sleep when you're in the doghouse?" And I'm like, "Well, that's kind of for late nights. Like when I had a corruption weekend database I was working on." Right, and I spent some time in the cot, right, and needed to sleep. So,
yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we I guess circling back to SQL Trail, try to get some input, right? So if those of you who are there, right, want to give us some comments or chime in, we're still open to accepting that. We are planning another event in June. We haven't selected the date yet, but we should select it next week. We'll get that out there. I think we're just going to do 3 sessions this time. I'm not quite sure that we're ready to do multi-track just yet. We may do multi-track in October and make that a bit more a la a SQL Saturday. Again, using a tool like an Airmeet, so you still have the lounge tables. You can still it's not like a go-to webinar. Right? That I do not want to do. I'm like, ugh. And it makes me sad that people are still putting on those types of events because I don't feel like that's an event. But
no, it's an extended webinar.
Extended webinar, that's right. So if you have thoughts about what we should be talking about, 3 sessions. I think I'm going to reserve one for professional development. Let us know, right? And maybe it'll make the cut. So, okay, very good. Anything else, Mr. Kevin?
Yeah, I like the one track virtual conference thing. I think having a bunch of tracks, it lets you have more speakers, and as a speaker, I enjoy that.
Sure.
It means it's less likely that I get told no. But having one track, I guess the big disadvantage is, okay, if there's nothing interesting to me for this hour, then what am I going to do?
Right.
But I think it's a lot easier from the standpoint of management, from running the thing. And I believe that when you have 5 or 6 options, you can say, oh, I want this, 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 and this. And that's great. But sometimes there may be a session that you had no idea that you would have even wanted to watch. And
Sure.
the single track, if you just say, I'm just going to dedicate whatever's going on here. If it's something I absolutely do not like, okay, I'll go play solitaire for an hour or something.
Or go check social media, right?
Yeah. Or do some work or something. But you may find out that, I actually do think this is useful. I liked this thing. I had no idea about this. And you may learn that from a talk that you otherwise wouldn't have watched, wouldn't have attended.
Yeah, I mean, I think now I have seen Frank talk before, but I think there were some folks that may not have been interested in what he had to say, but he got up there and he was rather funny. He had some very interesting interactions, if you will, and I think people enjoyed that. So Jason's saying as long as you don't give your 5-hour talk, that I think he thinks it'll be okay.
My 5-hour talk is actually pretty good.
Now, have you done? I know you've been doing trainings and whatnot. I mean, so the idea of a pre-con, right? So the full day event, full day single speaker event. I know yes or no?
Tough call. Basically, if I really like the speaker, okay. But
yeah, does that mean you have to be like celebrity status at that point, or?
That's the problem. I think you do, because if it's somebody who's not at that level who can draw their own crowd, then it's really difficult to get someone to say, "Oh, well, I'll go attend this."
Right.
And it's sort of a risk hedging thing where the plus side to having 30 speakers is if I really don't like how one speaker presents, okay, well, that's only 3%. I've still got 97% who may not be bad.
Sure.
And as a result, it hedges that risk. When you have one person, and that this is all about the one person, you're going there for the person. You're not really necessarily going there for the topic.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we again, in a lapse of judgment, I just remember last year, Eugene doing a pre-con, and I remember getting into, I don't know, hour 5, and we'd taken a break for lunch even, and it was just kind of like, why did we do this? Like, what were we thinking?
Yep. If you have 30 people in the audience, okay, that makes sense. It's financially viable. When you've got 5 people, I don't know how many people Eugene had. I'll assume he had 30. But when you have 5 people,
even taking the financial pieces of it out of it, right? I mean,
yeah, it's pre-cons are hard enough to begin with, but sitting there at the computer for 8 hours, I've done it. I've presented. I've been on that side.
Well, in fact, that was part of the feedback we got for the first time. You said you put on an event, it was like a 15-hour thing, and you're like, ugh,
13 straight hours. It was data architecture day. It was because I did not want to turn down anybody. So I just said, what, forget it. I'll roll with it. And I wasn't even the presenter. I was just MC for all of it.
Gotcha.
And so I didn't even have any of the lights on, any of the cameras on. I was just, hello, this is the next person. Wow, that was great, next person. Now, here's the next person. And I was exhausted by the end of it.
Sure. That's funny. Okay.
Also, I don't recommend having 13-hour-long conferences. It's just not if you're doing it as a single person.
Yeah. No, I like the half day, 4 hours is kind of a sweet spot, because it gives you it gives enough time to have more than just a single session content, but at the same time you can still do something with your day. You don't feel like you have to block out the entire thing, right?
Yep.
So.
Yep. it gives me a lot of respect for the old 24 hours a pass.
Oh,
Where
sure.
I've been a speaker for that. I've been an attendee for it, but the organizers having to do 24 hours. I mean, I know that they did it in shifts, but still, that's even if you're only doing an 8-hour shift, that's still a lot of work.
Right. Well, and just like that, let's see, okay, I think, am I better now?
I mean, you were the same as before.
Yeah, well, I guess on the stream they were telling me that, anyway, OBS is bouncing around on me. I started having issues
Fortunately,
with my mic. But.
Don't worry, folks. I'm doing great.
Yeah, that's all that matters. Our star is happy, right? It's all good.
I've got a trailer. I've got a trailer now.
Yeah, that's right.
Can't park it in my county.
Yeah, that's right. You have to walk it. It's a 250-yard walk to get to the trailer, but hey, you've got it.
No, actually, Durham and Wake counties in North Carolina don't allow you to have a mobile home permanently. So it's to keep people from living in trailers on property. You have to have a foundation, or it can't stay there for more than a certain number of days.
Sure.
Like if you own a Winnebago, I don't know how people handle that. They may have to put it in storage someplace.
Wow. I'll have to go down. My sister's in Wake County. I'll have to go down and see if I don't know that I've noticed before, but anyway, good to know. Very good, compañeros. Thanks for tuning in to our episode today. Mr. Kevin, if people want to reach out to you, maybe they have an idea of some session they want to do, or they think, want to suggest that you do a data comedy podcast, right? How might they make that suggestion to you?
Well, apparently not through Instagram or Facebook or Twitter.
That's right. Don't do it there.
I'm on social media 15 minutes a day. I don't know.
It's on his calendar,
Maybe
folks.
I've got a MySpace account somewhere. I don't know.
That's right. He's got to make sure you line up with his calendar.
Hit me up on AOL Instant Messenger.
Oh, gosh. You want to know what's crazy about that is I was actually working. Now, granted, this was probably 5 years ago, but I was working with a customer, and that's how they wanted to chat, was on AOL Instant Messenger. I
loved it. I loved it back when I was 10 years old.
Compañeros, you can reach out to me on social media. LinkedIn is how I like to interact with folks. I'm at Carlos L. Chacon. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate those who are listening live and those who listen on the podcast, wherever you are. We know that you may not get out as much as you have been, so thanks for bringing us along. We appreciate those who came to SQL Trail, and we hope to see, if you didn't make it yesterday or this last time in March, we hope that you'll join us in June, right? Come talk to us. Come say hello. It will be free. Again, it will be a free option for you, and we hope you check it out. Until then, compañeros, I'll see you on the SQL Trail.
SQL Data Partners.